Hello everybody and welcome to the 29th GISRUK annual conference online. I'm very honoured to be organising and hosting this year's session. I was hoping it was going to be face-to-face when I agreed to do this 2 years ago, but unfortunately we all know why it can't be face-to-face. So welcome to Cardiff, welcome to Cardiff University. If it was face-to-face, I'll be welcoming you to our beautiful campus right in the heart of the city centre. And it's that time of year when all the blossoms out, cherry blossoms out in Keynotes Park, and it is quite beautiful. So unfortunately, we're not there. However, I'm sure we're still going to have a really excellent conference. In terms of the conference itself, it's over 3 days. So it's today, tomorrow and Friday. We have 2 parallel streams. For most of the days, although tomorrow morning we do have a third stream just for the first session, 9 till 10:30. There's 21 sessions in all, so we're covering a lot of papers, and we have 68 papers, which we're extremely pleased at, because when we did advertise the conference this year, we weren't sure whether people would want to take part as it was virtual. So we're really thrilled that we had a really good response to our call for papers, and we have excellent papers this year. So we have 44 long papers, which last about 20 minutes with about 5 minutes questions, and then 24 short papers. These are the equivalent of what would have been posters. They last about 10 minutes with about 3 minute questions. So we have a nice session of long papers and short papers. We have presenters from 15 countries. And our reckoning is we have far more people from overseas this year than we would have usually, simply because it's an online conference. So there is an advantage of being online in terms of getting more people involved. And at last count, we have 760 delegates registered on Eventbrite. Again, that is a large number of people for a GISRUK conference. So we're really pleased that the conference has proved popular despite being online. In terms of the paper themes, this year we thought it was probably sensible to come up with COVID-19 as a theme, as is what's affecting the conference. And we went through the papers, and about 25% of the papers, or 16 papers in all, have COVID as a theme. So again, we were pleased that our presenters have engaged with the theme of the conference. And rather than have these as individual sessions, it was easier, and we thought it was better if these papers were put into the other sessions. So throughout the entire conference, you'll be exposed to work which is looking at COVID, so research which is literally less than a year old. So these are some of the themes that have come out of the papers. So some of the themes that you can see. So there's papers which look at the spatial patterns of COVID mortality in the UK and the US. So mapping the spread of COVID through time and space and linking that to socioeconomic and demographic factors. There's a whole series of papers that are looking at pandemic interventions, and particularly lockdown, and how that's affected population movement and activity spaces. So sort of stay-at-home orders and things and interventions such as that. There's a number of papers which have looked at what the impact of COVID-19 is on patterns of social segregation, of crime, of retail, of business activity, and we all know from experience that it's had a major effect on all these different dimensions. There's a few papers which are actually engaged with social media and map social media output, and looking at people's perception of the pandemic and the interventions, and looking at how those vary spatially. There's been some work done looking at how the different intervention orders could be implemented in different geographical contexts. So it's looking at the ability for people to actually social distance, and how could that vary by city and neighbourhood. It's also looking at whether people could social distance in the street and things like that. So it's using very large, big data sets to try and predict the feasibility of social distancing. And there's also been work at looking at how the lockdown and people's changes in people's behaviour has changed their consumption habits, and how that's changed things such as emissions. So a whole variety of different papers relating to COVID, and not just mapping it, not just mapping the spread of the disease, but actually the impact on everyday lives. We also have the remaining papers are your very traditional GISRUK papers, reflecting the state of the art within the field of GIS at the moment. So we have a whole series of papers on urban analytics, a series of papers on urban infrastructure modelling and the built environment, papers on social and spatial modelling, a couple of sessions on looking at spatial data infrastructure and spatial workflow. Again, volunteer geographic information is still very popular and a very important area of research, and a whole series of applications in transport, economics, health and environmental science, again reflecting the diversity of work and the diversity of disciplines which this conference attracts. So hopefully there's something for everyone there. In terms of keynotes, we're really thrilled to announce that we've got some 3 very excellent keynotes this year. So first up to this afternoon at 5 o'clock is Dr. Sumaya Dodge. She's based in Santa Barbara, so she'll be giving her keynote at 9 o'clock in the morning when it's 5 o'clock this afternoon, which is why it's slightly late, but this is the compromise we've come. So hopefully you'll be able to make it. It's not too late. And she's going to be looking at data-driven movement analytics for pandemic responses. So she's looking at the effects of COVID interventions within the US. Then tomorrow at lunchtime, we've got Professor Pete Atkinson, who's a distinguished professor of spatial data science at Lancaster University. And he's going to be looking at AI, he's going to be looking at joint deep learning, and looking at work he's done on developing a novel paradigm for simultaneous land use and land cover classification. So he's looking at very much, so the keynote's very much around the environmental applications of GIS. And finally, on Friday at midday, we've got Professor Sarah Lindley, who's a professor of Geographic Information Science at Manchester. And she's going to be looking at the use of the buffer zone, something that we've always used, a very basic tool in GIS. And she's going to be looking at it in terms of her work on exposure, particularly exposure to air pollution and health. So again, there's a health element there, not necessarily COVID, but it could be related to COVID. So hers is very much the link between society and the environment. So we've got 3 very nice complementary keynotes there. One on COVID, very socioeconomic applications, and land use environmental applications, and a sort of mixed application there. So hopefully you'll be able to come and join us for those speakers. And they're in the main room. In terms of the rooms, the conference, please check the conference website. That's got the program and the proceedings, and it'll tell you which room and each session is, and the time and the date. So we've basically got 4 rooms. We've got the main room, which is the room we're in now. That's for the keynotes. It's for the closing remarks on Friday and the social event tomorrow night, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then there's 3 separate rooms for each of the sessions. So all parallel sessions 1's in room 1, all parallel sessions 2 is in room 2, and tomorrow morning we've got a room 3 for the 3rd parallel session. These rooms will be open, so people will be coming and going, and there's a 15-minute break between sessions which allow a changeover of chairs and presenters. And what we're going to do is we're going to close down the rooms between sessions and then reopen them for logistical reasons. So if there's a presentation in 2 sessions in the same 2 different times but in the same room, you're going to have to rejoin, I'm afraid. But all that means, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. In terms of the social event, this is late Thursday afternoon. We're going to be meeting in room 1, but the social for a quiz, and then we're having a social networking platform called Wonder Me, which we used yesterday as part of the early career research workshop. And it's a platform where it's much easier for you to meet up in groups. And I'll put the link on the website, and the link will be in the social event, the chat room on the main room on tomorrow. So you come to the main room tomorrow, and the information will be there. So please come along and please bring a drink. In terms of online etiquette, I'm sure most of you now are used to Zoom meetings. I mean, we've done nothing but Zoom meetings for the last year. So as you're probably aware, if you click on the room and it's not open, you'll be put in a waiting room until it is open. Most of the rooms will be open most of the time during the session, during the conference. If it's not, just wait for a few minutes. The conference will be moderated as normal. Your microphones and your video cameras are turned off. This is so that it's just easy to manage, and there's not too much distraction for the presenters. All sessions are going to be recorded and are going to be put on the GISRUK YouTube website. If for some reason you don't want to be included in the recording, this is really for presenters, just email me after the conference and we can edit you out. There will be technical problems. I've been thinking nothing but technical problems over the last week, and hopefully we'll get around them. So if things go wrong, just be patient. We'll get things fixed as fast as possible. And if for some reason, due to a technical hitch, you can't join a session, don't worry, it will be recorded and it will be online. In terms of communication, it's the usual sort of conference setup. There'll be a presentation, and then afterwards there'll be 2 or 3 minutes for questions. Please use either the Zoom chat facility or the question and answer facility, and the host of the chair will ask the questions on your behalf. And you can ask the questions as you go along. Don't have to wait to the end. If something comes up that sparks your interest during the presentation, just type it in. Twitter, we're live on Twitter. We're going to start tweeting. That's our Twitter account. That's our hashtag. So please tweet away. Advertise the conference. If you have any problems, just email us at the address there. It is online on the conference website, and it would have been in the emails, the links that were sent around. Okay, so it's coming up to 9:30. I've now got to open up session 1 room, so we can invite our chairs and our presenters for our first session in a quarter of an hour. So please enjoy the conference, and I'll hopefully catch up with you online during the session, and hopefully have a good conference. So I'll close this session, and we can then join the new sessions. Bye-bye.